We are back with our live panel, Steve Schmidt, Neera Tanden, and Jason Johnson. Neera, we've been watching many parts of this interview with Steve Bannon, most recently his defense on Charlottesville.
Yeah, I think his statements are just reprehensible. And as you point out in the interview, but just need to say again, one person died here in Charlottesville. Her name was Heather Heyer. The president never really talked about her, never discussed her. Steve Bannon still trying to equate Antifa with the people who came in, initiated the whole thing, announced over and over statements like Jews will not replace us, racist, virulently anti-Semitic remarks, and still Steve Bannon, who was the advisor to the president and probably fueled his racist remarks at the time, and I believe it is racist to equate these groups. It is, has the ear of the president. I will also just make a side note, which is on the Mueller investigation, Steve Bannon said at the time that there's no way Donald Trump didn't tell Donald Trump Jr. didn't tell Donald Trump, his dad, about that meeting. But now, when he's trying to raise money from millions of people to give him to support Donald Trump, he's basically saying, oh, yeah, no, Donald Trump never did that, or I don't know that that happened, or he denied it. And I think we should take his statements at the time, not his statements today.
So it's interesting. All this week we've been having these conversations as to whether or not Omarosa should get this kind of airtime, right? and I look at this thing with Steve Bannon, and this is a reminder of where that discussion should go. This man is a terrorist sympathizer, and he's trying to spin it to an American audience. He is the father of the alt-right. The alt-right are white nationalists. You can't accomplish white nationalism without violence. And what happened in Charlottesville was a protest march that turned into a terrorist attack. And he's going to try and spin that to the best of his ability. You can sit there and say, oh, Antifa, this is bad. No, that's like saying Batman and the Joker are the same. No, if you didn't have the Joker, you wouldn't have Batman. Antifa exists to be anti-fascist, and he is a supporter of fascists. So no matter how many times he tries to sprinkle, sprinkles on this turd, okay, we know what he is. We know what smells. We know how dangerous he is. And I think it's important to always focus on that any man like this who wants to be a part of mainstream American politics is a danger, and he should be called as such every single time he opens his mouth.
Steve, your reaction to any and all of the above?
Well, Steve Bannon is verbally dexterous enough to do exactly what Jason just said he did, which is to legitimize these white nationalist groups, these neo-Nazi groups, to basically place them into the mainstream of American politics. Well, these people are radical, but there's radical people on the other side. And he sets up this equivalence argument. And here's the reality, is that in August of 2017, neo-Nazis carrying torches straight out of the SA in 1935 marched on Charlottesville, Virginia, chanting, "Jews will not replace us." There are no good Nazis. The only good Nazi, in fact, and we understood this by the end of World War II, was a dead Nazi. The Nazi movement venerates the most evil leader of the most evil regime in all of human history that committed its greatest crime. These white nationalists, these racists, these Klansmen, they have gotten the wink, they've gotten the nod, they have been emboldened under this vile and racist administration, and that's ground truth. And so you can see all the verbal gymnastics, you can see all the equivalents that Steve Bannon lays down. But here in 2018, white nationalists, racists have been emboldened. They've been emboldened by this president. And lastly, I heard Steve Bannon, and what I think the news of the interview is basically acknowledge that if Donald Trump, in fact, knew the purpose of the meeting was to get information from the Russians about Hillary Clinton, which he most certainly knew. Because Steve Bannon was telling the truth when he said that there was no way that Donald Trump Jr. took the meeting, had the meeting, and didn't report back to Daddy.
Well, he did say that, and Steve, building on that point, he did concede under questioning that would be very concerning. That is the exact thing that Mueller is probing, that Michael Cohen will reportedly testify to, and that Neera and I pointed out. Steve Bannon already implied he believed that Donald Trump was in on seeking that foreign help.
So what I heard Steve Bannon say today is that when we all find out that that is in fact exactly what happened, that in his estimation the president committed treason. That's the news of this interview tonight.
Neera?
Yeah, I agree. I think the reality here is that Steve Bannon said at the time, and he says today, dealing with the Russians was treasonous, treasonous, and he knows that Donald Trump Jr. told his dad, and we all know he told him. There's the infamous call placed, but it's just reality, and I think that is the fact that he's going to have to concede that, and I hope he's already conceded it to Mueller.
And you make that point. He would not tell me the number of days, but he had a voluminous, he said, detailed meeting with Mueller, and he is, it appears, smart enough to know not to lie about that. So as you say, he may have already laid the predicate for that. Jason Johnson gets our final comment.
I am glad that you got the opportunity to speak to him. I think it's important that we know how dangerous he is, but I don't want to ever hear from this man again. We have a history in this country of terrorism. The Klan is a terrorist organization. We are in danger. They kill people. This isn't nice. This isn't simple. And I hope Steve Bannon's his last interview and he fails in everything he tries to do from now on politically.
I really appreciate the vigor, the rigor, and the seriousness of what are serious topics from each of you, from our panelists. My special thanks to Jason Johnson and Neera Tanden here in Washington, to Steve Schmidt joining us as well. And I want to thank everyone for watching at home tonight. If you do want to see the entire interview with Steve Bannon, it will be posted later tonight on MSNBC.com. People can make up all of their own minds.